There's so much misconception about what artificial intelligence is. To start off with, we've had, decades of molding and such in the culture, in our media, about what AI, the movies have been all about how AI is evil and how AI looks like androids.
So many people get confused by AI because they're like, but it was lying to me, it was trying to deceive me. And I'm like, it wasn't trying to do anything. It was trying to give you the best information it had. It just was confused, or it just made stuff up, which it does do sometimes when it doesn't have information. But all of this is because it's been programmed to do so.
God didn't give us this computer program. Man gave us this computer program, but God gave us talents, and he expects us to use those talents. And so many talents have then been turned into time-saving, life-saving processes or tools that, it seems silly to me not to use those, such as penicillin. Oh my goodness, where would we be without penicillin? Well, God gave that man that talent, that gift.
Hi, and welcome to the Business Alchemy podcast. I'm your co-host, Jonathan Mast, and with me, my co-host, Beth Mast. Today, we're going to chat about artificial intelligence. And Beth, that term may be a bit misleading. Do you want to kind of kick us off?
Absolutely. Well, good day to you. I'm so thrilled to have the opportunity to talk about this because there's so much misconception about what artificial intelligence is. To start
Absolutely.
off with, we've had, decades of molding and such in the culture, in our media, about what AI, the movies have been all about how AI is evil and how AI looks like androids and looks like us, and they're people, and it has these anthropomorphic, characteristics that it's just not true, folks.
Correct.
That is not what we're dealing with right this moment.
Absolutely, 100%. And I think, it's interesting because you and I have both ran into people who are absolutely convinced that AI is evil and it's going to take over the entire world. And yet I'm 99% sure from the conversations I've had with those people that they've actually never tried it. They're literally just believing that what we have is artificial intelligence, when I think in reality, and you just wrote an amazing article about this, but artificial intelligence isn't really the right term, or at least it's not
No.
an accurate term. Can you explain that? I mean, everybody's talking about AI. Why is it not the right term?
Well, the term actually came out in the 1950s at Dartmouth, and there were these college professors, and they decided that they wanted to term what AI, or what could happen in computers, what we could possibly achieve. And it was basically the idea that we could have this sense of intelligence where computers could carry out instructions in such a way that it would allow us to use them to take care of tasks and such that we wouldn't have to. It would be programming that would actually lead us to believe that it was problem solving and that it was actually solving issues for us. And obviously, to problem solve, there's this word called intelligence that we tack onto that. And unfortunately, it's just not really accurate. And so when you have a computer program, obviously we're talking about something that is not sentient. It does not have a spirit in it. There's no ghost in the machine. It is literally an algorithm. It's math, folks. It's one programming code laid upon another, one task after another that's being executed because humans have programmed it to do so. It doesn't just do that on its own. And when you even have learning code, algorithms that can learn, even that, it's again based on programming. It's not like there's a desire on the computer's part to actually learn something new, or to best us, or to take over the world. The computer doesn't care. It just doesn't care.
No, you're absolutely right. And I think that's interesting that so many people, when I talk to them about AI, I'm an AI coach and a mentor, so I talk to a lot of people about it, and they're like, AI lied to me, or AI is trying to deceive me, or things along that line. And I'm like, in fact, you
Hmm.
you and I both spoke at a conference recently, and I made the statement there. AI is not lying to you, because AI, to lie to you, would require it to make the decision that it knew the truth and that it was going to tell you something false instead. And as you remember, one of the members in the group at that point we were talking to disagreed with us pretty vehemently that
Yeah.
it is lying to you. My
Yeah.
belief, and again, it's really semantics, as we discussed with that gentleman, but it boils down to the belief that for me, for somebody or something to lie to me, it needs to, one, know the truth, and then two, it needs to make a decision to tell me something different. And that's where I think so many people get confused by AI, because they're like, but it was lying to me. It was trying to deceive me. And I'm like, it wasn't trying to do anything. It was trying to give you the best information it had. It just was confused, or it just made stuff up, which it does do sometimes when it doesn't have information. But all of this is because it's been programmed to do so. Can you clarify that a little bit and maybe add some meat to the bone there?
Well, I really want to point out the words you just even said, and that's part of the issues, the words that we're using. We talk about how AI can get confused. That's a human word. It doesn't get confused.
True.
It gets its coding mixed up. The programming's not solid in that area, and so there might be one command that we've typed in versus another command, and it's crossing wires on those. It's basically trying to put those together. And
Hmm.
so we use a human word, confused. Or you said it makes a decision. It doesn't make a decision. It basically follows a line of steps, and this
So
step
true.
is given to it, then go to this step. It's like an if then statement. If you've ever used spreadsheets, formulas for spreadsheets, then you may be familiar with if then statements. But it's the same process we go through when we come up to a traffic light. So it does imitate some of the decision making we make, but it never has the intent. But let's talk about the traffic light for a moment. So I come up to a traffic light. If it's red, I stop. That's a command, right? We've
Hmm.
learned this. We've been trained to do this. We can train a computer to do this. If it's green, we go. So if it's red, stop. But if it's not, then go. And if it's yellow, we've programmed it to know, okay, this particular yellow light is yellow for 3 seconds. So if it's been yellow for 0 to 1.5 seconds, then we're going to gas it and go. But if it's been yellow for more than 1.5 seconds, we're going to prepare to stop and then stop at the light.
Hmm.
Those types of instructions are exactly what we give to a computer. And that's now what we're calling AI.
It's such a great explanation, and you're right. I mean, even when I'm trying to explain it, I say it wrong, because those are the words in our vernacular, and so we use those, our vernacular, and that's what we use, even though it's not an accurate depiction. And I think that that's part of what gets some of the naysayers really off guard, is that they can't separate the words. They can't separate deceive and lie and decide and make the choice and confused, because those are the words that our brain understands. When in
Hmm.
reality, as you just, I think, so eloquently pointed out, the AI didn't choose. The AI didn't decide. The AI is simply following the instruction set it's been given. Now, a programmer may have decided, or a programmer may
Yes.
have been confused, or a programming team may have provided it with confusing information that the computer may be following the instruction set, but the computer's not actually sitting there making that decision. Even with the latest AI, where you can give it a goal and it will define a task list to do that. The computer's not actually thinking. The computer's simply following the programming it's been given. And it does it so fast, it seems like it's thinking. And the programming, candidly, is so good, it feels like it's thinking, but it's not. It's still following the code it's been given.
Hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. You're saying exactly correctly. And the key there is that who programmed it? Humans people,
Bingo.
so what you get out of the other end is basically just mathematical calculations of what humans put in on the front end of it. Now, right now, we talk about generative AI. Is that correct?
Correct.
What is this new AI? Can you talk a little bit about that? It's like agenics, is that correct?
Yeah, agentic AI is the normal term for it. There's a lot of terms thrown around, so you may have heard of different things. But right now, as we sit, we basically have to tell the AI model what tasks we want it to do and what order we want it to do them, and it will go ahead and do that. So if I, for example, this morning is a great example, I created a new campaign for a new training that I've got coming out. And I started by telling it that here's some information about what we're going to train. I need to begin by creating a product description because I need to sell a ticket. Then I need to take that product description and I need to turn that into a landing page copy because we need to create a landing page that people can go register for this and buy the ticket to the event. Then I need to create a thank you sequence so that once people buy that, they go ahead and here's the thank you for purchasing, here's your Zoom link, and then we need to set a 1 day reminder and a 1 hour reminder before the event. And I need those emails. Now I need to write promotional content. So I need to write social media content. I need to write emails. I may need to create some imagery for it. Every one of those was a separate prompt. So I had to prompt it, I don't know, 20 times, give or take, in order to achieve this. Now, the good news is I was able to create an entire campaign in a little bit over 40 minutes. That would have taken me a couple years ago a day to do. It would, I mean, literally, I took a day's worth of work and turned it into 40 minutes. Agenic AI takes that one step further, though. Instead of Jonathan sitting there and typing in those 20 prompts, I now could start by saying, here's a course that I want to offer. Here's the details of that course. I would like you to now, based upon that, create my product, create my landing page, create my email sequences, create my social media, and anything else that I need in order to promote this. And I could say go. And then it would
Hmm.
literally logic its way through, again, following the programming it's been given on how to do that logic, and say, what tasks would I need to complete in order to achieve Jonathan's objective? And it would basically identify those 20 prompts on its own, and it would then proceed to follow through that sequence without needing me unless it needed information. So it might ask me a couple questions like, hey, Jonathan, you said it's going to be via Zoom. What's the Zoom link? I'd have to give it the Zoom link. Or we're actually getting to the point where I could say, go create the Zoom meeting for me in my calendar and then use that Zoom link. So agenic AI, the key difference is the ability to essentially determine the tasks necessary to complete an objective and to automatically, and I use that word in quotes, but automatically follow those tasks in sequence in order to achieve the the desired objective.
In your opinion, do you think this agenic AI will take over the world?
No, because it still had to be programmed by somebody and it still needs to be asked to do something. It's still,
Hmm.
a great example is I would have forgotten to give it my Zoom meeting and it would have then had to ask me to do that. It wouldn't have, unless I had previously given it permission to go do that, it wouldn't have the ability to even go schedule that Zoom meeting. I'm going to take a slight segue, but people that think that AI is going to take over the world just need to try using it a few times because AI gets, again, I'm going to use the word confused. AI makes mistakes, whatever we want to say. AI is so far from perfect today. And if you're not sure, just have it write a memo for you and then proof it. It's so far from perfect. Yet those same people that are afraid to try to do that think it's going to take over the world. They can't even write a memo, folks, without screwing things up. So there's no way this is going to take over the world. It doesn't take initiative unless we as humans ask it to do so. I'm going to steal
Hmm.
something from the gun control lobby, and like them or not, it's not the point. People that love guns, Second Amendment people, have always said, I can take my gun and I can put it in the foyer at my house in front of my front door. I can have it loaded and ready to go, and I can stare at it all day long, and it won't shoot anybody all day because it'll never do that on its own. AI is the same way. I can
Hmm.
have AI up on my computer. In fact, I'm looking at Google Notebook Plus right now on one of my windows. It's sitting there. It's been sitting there since I loaded it this morning. Guess what? It has done nothing
Nothing.
because I haven't asked it to do anything. And it won't do anything unless I ask it to do that. And yes,
Hmm.
we are getting to the point where we can assign tasks and say, I want you to do something every day, but I still had to assign that task. It didn't figure it out and do it without that prompting to do so. And I can go to AI and I can even say, plot to take over the world, and it's not going to have the capabilities to do that.
Hmm. Well, you even think about how complicated that would be to do. I mean,
Absolutely.
anybody who's not been in the military or has not been a head of a nation wouldn't even have a clue about how complicated that would be to do. So to think that a computer on its own, without programming, and even with programming, is going to be able to detail that out and be able to make the connections and touch the lives and control other objects. It's just absurd. But one of the things that I hear people say a lot is a reference in the Christian realm to Revelations and how, there's going to be these chips put
Hmm.
into us. And of course, nowhere in the Bible does it actually say that there's going to be chips put into us. I just need to put that out there.
That's correct.
What it says is that we're going to basically be branded and that we're going to have, 666 on us. And the issue with that is that in order to become that and do that, there has to be some sentience there. There
Correct.
has to be, now there can be, from again a Christian standpoint, an antichrist that steps in that's human and programs machines at some point when there's that kind of capability. But even then, the amount of money and technology that you would need to be able to do that. I mean, it's so far from where we are right now. And unless I am drugged and put out, I still have to give permission to have someone put a chip inside my skin. And the person who's going to do it, or at least who's going to say that it needs to be done, is not going to be an android. It's not going to be AI. It's going to be a human, because only humans have that kind of intent. And the idea that there's a computer that has feeling is just, again, we're just putting something on it that is exclusively human. In computers, software programs that we program don't have feelings. Now, there might be decisions or programming put into that reflect a certain person, a
Hmm.
person's feelings, or a group of people's feelings, but it's not going to do that on its own. One of the comments that was made to us at this conference that we were at was that you had made the comment that AI does not lie. And technically, I guess you could say that it does lie, but it doesn't lie as the word lie means and with human intent. If it's programmed to deceive and to give a reverse answer to what we've asked it to give, then I suppose technically that would be lying. But a computer, again, it's software, garbage in, garbage out. We talked about that way back when, the days of
Absolutely.
DOS, when we were learning that, that what you program, if you program garbage in it, garbage is going to be what comes out of it. And that's still very applicable to this day. Nothing has happened to change that.
No, you're absolutely right. And in fact, when we think of that, even somebody says, well, it lied to me because it deceived me. Only if it was programmed to do so, in which case the computer doesn't think it's lying. It doesn't think at all, of course. The computer's
Doesn't have
just
any feelings
literally
about it.
following its code instructions that it has
Hmm.
and what's there. No, I think, in my experience, and so many people that are fearful of AI haven't actually tried using it and experienced it. And I don't want encouragement I'd love to give to all our listeners. If you're in that camp and you're like, AI is evil and it's just try it. This is not like cocaine that you're going to take it once and you may become hooked for life or you may end up dying or anything like that. I've never done cocaine, but I've heard those things. It's why I've never tried it. This is not what we're talking about here. This is a tool. It's candidly, in my mind, Beth, it's really no different than when you and I started in the workforce and there were still people that had typewriters and adding machines on their desks and did not have computers. Very shortly thereafter, everybody started getting computers on their desk. And there were people that were concerned about that, that thought this is not going to be good. This is, wow. But the word processor and the spreadsheets that we started using proved to be so much more efficient at what we were doing. But they didn't take our jobs away. They created more jobs because all of a
Yeah.
sudden we were able to get more things done. And while, yes, I'm sure there is somebody who was in a typing pool that didn't upgrade to the word processor, probably because they were at retirement age and didn't want to mess with it. The people that, a 25-year-old I'm trying to think, a stenographer or whatever that was in the typing pool that was doing it, didn't lose their job forever and have to go on welfare for the rest of their life. They simply learned a new skill, and it was how to use the
Right.
word processor or spreadsheet instead. And AI is
Mhm.
the same thing. Technology is going to progress, it's going to do that, but we need to embrace it. And I believe, especially as a man of faith, I believe I have a responsibility and an it's a responsibility to use the tools that God has given us. And I just shared this with somebody. I was in Dallas last week, and it may seem really off to some people, but my ultimate goal, very simply, is to stand in front of Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior, someday and hear, "Well done, good and faithful servant." That's it. If I do that, then I know everything else has worked out.
Well,
In the parable of the talents, Jesus talks about giving talents. And what I don't want to hear, I don't want to hear at some point in time Jesus going, "I gave you this really cool tool called AI. It may have been misnamed and may have everything else, and you were too scared to use it and you didn't use it to amplify your skill. You didn't use it to amplify your talents. And as a result, you missed out on tons of opportunities to glorify me." That would
mhm.
suck. And I really do believe this is just one of those tools that we need to use. Sorry, soapbox, I'll step off now.
I was going to say that God didn't give us this computer program.
No.
Man gave us this computer program, but God gave us talents, and He expects us to use those talents. And so many talents have then been turned into time saving, life saving processes or tools that, it seems silly to me not to use those, such as penicillin. Oh my goodness, where would we be without penicillin? Well, God gave that man that talent, that gift, that drive to want to discover things that could help people. And that's all this is. This is a tool, just like a pencil and a typewriter and a computer before it. This thing that is misnamed AI is just a computer program. It's just a
Correct.
computer program that acts more like a macro. Again, if you've used Excel, you know a little bit about macros. It's not anything new. It's just been used more fully, and they're programming in a slightly different way.
Yes.
One of the other things that came up was that there was some study and AI copied itself to preserve itself. And regardless of what anybody says, AI, that computer program, did not make the choice, "Oh my gosh, they're going to kill me. They're going to eliminate me. I better, I'm going to go over here and hide on this computer." That is not what happened. Someone programmed it, and you should try to keep, and they didn't use these words because that's not programming language, but, basically, I want you to do whatever it takes to make sure a copy of this code
Hmm.
is preserved. That's what happened. It didn't suddenly decide to do something different because it was fearful of dying. It's not human, not even close.
No, and that summarizes it so incredibly well. It is not human. It may seem like it's human because it's been programmed to have and respond in certain ways, but it hasn't been programmed to have emotion. It's simply been programmed to mimic emotion. And when we see things that look like a duck and quack like a duck, we think it's a duck. And when it
Mhm.
feels like emotion and it feels like it's being sentient, sometimes we want to feel that way. And there will be more of that happening. But I think it's so important for us to remember as users that it is not sentient. It does not have emotions. It is simply following its programming.
Back several decades, there was this term, and it was called uncanny valley. And it was basically the idea that when something looks human, it frightens humans. And I certainly can appreciate that. It's kind of like you know, again, we go to the media. I'm just going to thank Hollywood and all the entertainment for the fearfulness in part that people feel when they hear these things, because there are so many movies that have been out over the years about robots, androids, beings that aren't beings at all. They're computer code, but that somehow became beings, that somehow had emotion. And it's this uncanny valley effect. And it's just, when we hear the word AI, our mind goes back to literally, gosh, 7 decades of scary movies
Mm.
about these types of things. And they're still putting them out now. And the unfortunate thing is that's not what's happening. That's not what AI is right now. And I don't believe it's ever going to get to that point again, unless it's programmed to. If a human programs something to do something like that. But that's a totally different situation. And I also think there's just a lot of fear mongering going on, sensationalism for people trying to get readers and audiences to read their article or to read their blog or to watch their video, to click on their Facebook post. So they use these words that just they frighten people unnecessarily. And now instead of being logical, and really understanding what this is, which is a computer software program that does not have emotions or feelings, it does not have a spirit or sentience. Instead of knowing that, people are just afraid. And even the imagery we use, I've actually even done a couple articles where I've used images that now I'm a little regretful I used those particular images because it implied something that is definitely not there. And I don't want people to be afraid. I want them to go, wow, this is like when Microsoft Windows came out, or this is like the mouse with Apple computers. This is a really cool tool. I want to try this. And when it can save me time in my business or in my life and put out a product that enhances my capabilities, I think that's a wonderful thing.
Without a doubt, without a doubt. And again, I think it's just that why wouldn't we want to use something that allows us to save time, allows us to be more efficient, and ultimately, especially for those of us in business, allows us to provide more value to our audience. And AI lets us do all of that at the same time. It's so cool.
Well, if people are really afraid of AI as it is now, then they really shouldn't be using their smartphone.
So true.
They really shouldn't be on Facebook, because those same types of algorithms have been programmed in those scenarios to affect what we do. And they actually control what it brings up on our screen, what we see. Don't have Netflix, it suggests the next movie that you might like. It's not because it cares for you and has feelings about, what you might like. It's because they want to make money and they want you to watch something that you're going to like, which is going to spend more time on Netflix. So they have these algorithms that determine, oh, these are the types of movies she likes. I'm going to bring up these types of movies to recommend to her, or songs that you hear. So you better throw your phone away, folks, if you don't like AI, because it's filled with different types of algorithms that are guiding you and manipulating you, and it's far more insidious than the AI like Chat GPT, or Claude or Perplexity or something like that.
No, I think I couldn't agree with you more. I think another great example that affects virtually everybody, you mentioned Netflix, and of course, that's almost everybody I'm sure that has done that. But the other is GPS in our cars and on our phones. If we've relied on that for years to help us, excuse me, to help us drive. And yet it is using its programming and oftentimes live information that it's getting over the internet of traffic patterns to recommend routes that we're supposed to take. If
Mm-hmm.
if you think that's cool and it's ever saved you time or helped you miss a traffic jam, or maybe when you're in a traffic jam, at least helped you go, okay, this is a 7 minute delay. So you're not wondering how long is this going to be. That's a version of AI, like you said, using the exact same type of programmatic algorithms that we're used to.
Mm-hmm.
Those are just things that we're used to. We're comfortable with because we've used them for now decades. AI, as we see it now, is just an evolution in that step.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. There's really good news at the end of all of this, though. You know what that is?
Absolutely, there is. Better life.
That's true. Absolutely. But, if people are really that afraid of it, there's something they can do. They can walk over and unplug it.
So true. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
You don't have to use it, folks. Stop watching TV, turn off your phone, go outside and take a walk in nature. You can totally unplug from this. You do not need to be part of it. So, and you can live a perfectly good life. There's groups of people that do that right now. The Amish aren't all upset and in arms about this. They have a different type of life where they don't use a lot of the things that we use. You can certainly, I think one of the best things I find to do to cut down fear and anxiety about such things is to stop watching the news.
Amen to that.
Stop looking at news feeds, because that's where a lot of your sensationalistic content comes from. And then the other thing is stop watching scary movies. I don't know why people like to do that anyway. I don't like to be scared. So that's not an emotion I particularly like to focus on. I like to be happy and positive and look at how good things are going. That doesn't mean I'm avoiding something that's there, that I'm just, not acknowledging, but this AI thing, it's just not there. It's not AI like it has been portrayed over decades of film and fantasy and communication among people who like to talk about such things. That's not what this is.
Yeah, it is certainly not artificial intelligence. It is at best predictive algorithms. It is certainly not artificial intelligence.
And we have patterns, right? We do everything in patterns, so it really works well that there can be something predictive, because all people seem to have habits and patterns and things we like. Well, wow, there's now this computer software that can help predict what we're going to do next, or what we're going to like, or what we want to happen next. And that's okay. That is not going to take over our lives unless you let it, one, cause you a great deal of fear, or two, you just become lazy and decide to do nothing, because you're just going to let every computer program do everything for you.
So true. So true. Well, hopefully this episode has given people an opportunity to maybe take a step back and to say, okay, let's not believe everything the media is telling us. Let's not believe everything the fear mongers are telling us, that the world's coming to an end and that this is going to be, the worst thing ever. And maybe, just maybe, encourage you to make one or two decisions if you're not using AI. Either one, stop listening to the news and just go on life without it. It's all good. Or try it and find out if it adds value to your life. Either one is a good solution.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for taking time with me to talk about this. I was so intense at the beginning. I'm not sure I got everything out quite right, but I'm just so passionate about it because there's so much misconception about it. So thank you for taking the time to talk to me about it. And thank you, those of you who are watching, for taking the time to be with us. And hopefully you've learned something that's helpful. Hopefully you have a little less anxiety in your life after this episode, and hopefully a new tool to try out. So if you like this, please subscribe and give us a thumbs up. Jonathan, you want to close us out?
I will. And before I do that, I want to encourage you, if this topic's been interesting, check out the magazine, Everyday AI Vibe magazine. It's everydayAIVibemagazine.com. And actually, the title article, as this goes out in May, is actually about this exact topic. And I think it's definitely well worth reading. If you're listening to this later, Beth, you're the editor over there. Will they have the ability to get back and see past issues? Could they go look up the May issue if they're listening to this later?
Absolutely. Down in the footer, we have all of the past issues listed, so you can read through them all.
Fantastic. But take a look, read through it, and ponder. And then, of course, we'd love your feedback. With that, make it a great day, everybody, and we will see you on the other side.